Hello, welcome back to Blender Sushi Live Coding. In this episode, we're gonna do something quite fun with audio notes. So let's just get started. So it's just gonna be an improv. Let's use Suzanne head for our objects, and let's go to compositing, and we will be using audio notes. Now I have all the notes here. You see animation notes, workshop, audio notes. At some point, I will use audio notes with animation notes. So I'm gonna save this as audio from F-Curve. F-Curve is of course Blender animation notes. F-Curve is Blender animation graph. So we might need a graph editor. And let's make a quick keyframe using Suzanne. Actually, let's try audio notes first. Make sure this is working still. So we have sync, we have oscillator. Plug this, start the sound. Okay, that's working fine. So we're gonna control this guy using using animations. So we have Suzanne, we have this guy. Let's create a keyframe. Just keyframe Suzanne on the Z. So single keyframe on the Z, and then go a few frames. Move Suzanne up a little bit. Keyframe, and then move Suzanne back to 0. So just a simple keyframe. So we have that. This one has accelerations. Maybe for this example, I'm gonna select all, hit A, and then change the handle or interpolations to linear. So we have this something that's more like a triangle. So we can actually play around with that idea. All right, so we have Suzanne. The idea here, of course, we should be able to control these nodes using F-Curve. So in order to do that, I will still need to use Fairchop. So get this object ID. So objects. Get the objects. Get selection, get the monkey head, get the matrix. So matrix out, and vector out. Check out the stethoscope. So you can see it's changing based on the position of Suzanne. And if you want to turn this into a frequency that this guy will be happy with, we can use math, but we don't need that. We just gonna use a object set, actually remote node remote control. This is the audio out. Select audio out here, select our nodes, oscillator, and this one frequency. Plug this into this guy. So we should have this guy is changing. And okay, we need the math over here. Just multiply it by 100. So now the frequency is, you can see here, 0 and going up and going down. Okay, so that's cool. Save it and save it again. Let's try. Play this back with this plugin. You can see it's still going. We can hear a sound. Okay, so that's working. What's really cool we can do next is actually jump into the graph editor and here open up the modifier. And Blender has a lot of F-curve modifier. Basically, it's is how you can generate all kind of curve procedurally. So there's a built-in functions for the sine, envelope, cycles. The one I will use first is the cycles. By default, cycles, it's just gonna cycle the animations. No matter what animation you have, it's gonna cycle it. It's gonna try to cycle it. So this animation. So the animation that looks like a letter M is gonna be cycle. For example, in this case, it's gonna cycle forever and ever. You can change this to have like just a number, so you can specify how many times it's gonna cycle, and then it's gonna stop. But I'll keep it 0, so it's gonna cycle forever. You can change the value, of course. You can go down. You can add like a more keyframe if you like. So that's pretty cool. And we can change the frequency, of course, multiply it over here. We can change this to that's really loud. Okay. We can change this to, we can add more modifier. In this case, let's say the sine wave. See, the sine wave will just turn everything into a sine wave. And you can control the amplitude, change the value offset. So that's pretty cool, but then we also perhaps want to keep our keyframe from before. So with this modifier here, you can see we have cycles, and then we have this sine wave. We want to turn off additive. So with additive, it's going to multiply our animations with the sine wave. And you can continue experiment with this. Like there's noise, there's envelope, there's a step interpolations. That's actually interesting one. See, when I changed it to step interpolations, we get this kind of a wave, and we get a totally different sound. Triangles actually sounds really smooth there. Alright, so yeah, so you get the idea. This is Blender normal F-curve animations, which is basically controlling the frequency, and it's actually sampling based on the keyframes. If I increase the frame rate, it's gonna be a little bit faster. So spread choke here is just gonna be the helper, you know, it's converting the Suzanne value into this oscillator. You can of course use Blender drivers if you don't want to use other nodes. It's gonna be a lot faster as well. It's really interesting because you can actually combo this, combinations of these, and then you're gonna get totally different sound. Oh, maybe I'm doing it wrong. So, for example, this sound reminds me of like old game called Dig Dug. It's the music from Dig Dug, I think. Very interesting. So you can still control the keyframes, and then you get all kind of different results. So yeah, that's the idea. Hopefully you can actually try it yourself and then see what you can come up with. And if you ever want to record the sound, I recommend you to look at the Soundflower. So if you just search Soundflower, and then that's kind of like a library you can install on Mac, and then you can record any sounds from the system. So that's one way you can record it. Okay, so that's pretty much it for this video. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye.